everyone, it's Jennifer Thomas and I'm at Nebraska Girl Design Company. I am thrilled to be here with you today for the Painters Clubhouse and share with you a fun technique for painting camouflage. I recently worked with a bunch of students and we needed to have a way to do camouflage quick and easily, and I wanted the camouflage pattern to be consistent from artist to artist. So this was the design we came up with for our soldier door hanger, and you can see the camouflage on the suit there and the fatigues, I think is what they call those. So we wanted a consistent kind of look to our door hangers when one student to the next painted them. So I came up with a quick, easy, and cheap idea, since I am a school teacher, to get this look on several different door hangers, and I'd like to share that with you today. So first off, you can see I have a camouflage cross here that is completed. Let's zoom out just a little bit. And I actually created the camouflage with a series of different stencils. Now, the fun thing about the stencils is that you can create these yourselves. If you have a if you have a Cricut machine or anything like that that cuts out stencils, you can easily program some blobs in there or freehand some blobs and cut those out. I actually found some material at Hobby Lobby. You get 3 sheets. This was over in the stencil section by all the pre-cut, already cut stencils. And you get 3 sheets for $3. So I thought that was pretty economical. So what you need to do is just take one of these out. And I like these, they're very durable. They're nice and thick. They're going to last a long time. You can see these here have been kind of used and abused. And that's perfectly fine. So the first thing you're going to need is some sort of inspiration. I have some fabric that has a camouflage design. I have some printouts from the computer. You can even just look some up on your phone, find some on your phone, look at them and draw them as well. So basically this is super easy. And there is all kinds of camouflage, from hunting, military, different colors, all that kind of stuff. So we're just going to talk about a basic one today. So when I see the blobs on here, I'm just going to lay this over. And there is a film on here that I need to take off that I can barely see. So that's just trash. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can freehand these. You can trace them, especially if it's your own design. I wouldn't put these too close together. And I'm just going to do a couple of them right here. Sorry, I got a little bit of light glare from the overhead light there. So once I have that, I can do it 2 ways. I can take an X-Acto knife if you feel comfortable working with an X-Acto knife. And you can cut these out. Now, I would not suggest this for students or younger children just because they're working with an X-Acto knife. This would be something you would probably want to do for them. You can see I pressed hard in some spots and not in the others, so I'm just going to kind of go back and clean that up. I just want to get these blobs to pop out of the stencil. And of course, it's always easier to do when someone's not watching, so there we go. So this is going to be trash, and I have that part of my stencil. Another easy way to do it is to use a pair of scissors, and you can do that a couple of ways. You can draw with the Sharpie, or you can start by making a little X with your X-Acto knife. That just allows me to have room for the scissor blade, and then I can poke my scissor blade in here and just kind of freehand some blobs for my camouflage. Don't make it real choppy. Don't make it corners and that sort of thing. Just kind of think of gooey worms or blobs, that kind of shape. Okay, so now I have stencil, so I'm ready to go to the next step. So once I have my stencils, we can start painting. Let me back this out just a little bit. Okay, so I have a letter M. I thought this might be fun for possibly a boy's birthday party or a boy's nursery. I guess it could be a girl's too, but it might be fun to do for a little workshop. This is MDF, and I cut it out with my scroll saw, 1/4 inch MDF. I put on 2 quick coats of this color here, which appropriately is called khaki. So right now it kind of looks like the MDF, but it's really painted 2 coats. So what I'm going to do from here is take my stencils and start layering on some color. I'm getting a glare there, so that's going to help take rid of that glare a little bit. So the first thing I need is a paper plate, and my first color is going to be a light green. I'm just using apple barrel paint that I got at Walmart. This one is palm leaf. You can use any light green color you want. I've even seen camouflage be pinks for girls and different shades of yellows and oranges and stuff. So whatever you need for your project. Then I need a sponge. I like these sponges. I can take these and cut these in half and in half again. Now for smaller kids, if you wanted to clip a clothespin on here and maybe put some tape around the clothespin so they can't pinch it. Let me grab one quick. Like so. I might tape this because the kids will automatically want to squeeze that. But if you kind of tape that, that gives them a little longer handle to hang on to. So if you're working with a bunch of younger children, you might want to have this be a little bit longer, and then it won't be quite so messy. So the first thing I'm going to do is load up my sponge. Now there's a trick to this. I want to pounce when I'm on my wood. I don't want to smear, and I don't want a ton of paint. So I'm going to take some of the paint here, and I'm going to kind of work it in to the sponge. I want it in the sponge, not necessarily just sitting on top of the sponge. Okay, so I'm going to set that over here. Then I can take my first stencil. Let's start down here. And I always like to start with my lightest color. And I'm just going to sponge this on. When you first start, you're going to have lots of air bubbles in your paint, just because you have a lot more paint on your sponge at the moment. You can do a couple of things. You can continue to sponge to kind of get that out. You can take a dry sponge if you want and kind of knock down some of those bubbles. You can blow on it a little bit too if you'd like. Now, when I'm doing camouflage, I can pick and choose which ones I want to do. I don't have to do all of them. I don't have to do the whole shape. So this one up here, maybe I just want a little bit of that green up here. So these are just a good reference for me of where my blobs go. I can create my own blobs as I go. Now, by sponging up and down, it keeps the back of my stencil clean, so I can come over here, load up with some more paint. If you can see what I'm doing over here in my paper plate. I actually like working with a little bit of paint in my sponge. So when I first started, and you saw me load up a lot of paint, I'm barely pressing, and this is coming out really easily. As I continue to work, if I just press a little harder with my pounces, more of the paint from the middle of the sponge comes out, and I don't have to really reload. If I was doing this for a little kid's workshop, I would take turns passing this around and the sponge. I'd pass the plate around. I would be in control of the paint so they don't put out a whole bunch that they don't need. A little bit truly goes a long ways. So I'm going to take this and then I would let that person do all their sponging. Then I would pass this on to the next person. And while things are drying just a little bit, while they're waiting for the next color, that will help you not needing to have everything blown drying or that sort of thing. This sponging goes on really easy and quick, and if you don't goop it on really thick, it will dry super fast. So, I kind of have a big letter M here. This would be fun for each kid at the birthday party to have a monogram or their initial. If I was doing this at a workshop and I had lots of kids and I was kind of on a time crunch, like maybe it was a birthday party, mom wanted in and out in an hour, hour and a half, I would probably base coat the khaki so that all the kids had to do was do the stenciling, which would be super fun for them. So I'm just going to keep working my way around, getting a little more paint on my sponge as I need it. Now once in a while you get little boo-boos, little marks. It could be from the back of the stencil. It could just be from my sponge. I'm just going to leave that when I put the next sponge or the sponging on with the next color. It can cover it up. It's perfectly fine. These can just go flat in a sink and wash them up. They don't have to be washed immediately. I can let them dry a little bit while I'm working on something else and then just take a little soapy water and a little soft sponge and I can get them all washed at the same time. So let's go to the next one. So we'll use this one next. This time I'm going to use a darker green. This one just happens to be glossy. It was just what Walmart had when I grabbed some paint the other day. So I'll go ahead and put it on a clean paper plate. That way you can see if I wanted to pass these around at a party, kind of what that would look like. So I'm just going to load this up, get it inside of the sponge. And if you are working with kids, you might want to use some little tips for them, like tell them to pounce or pretend like it's a bunny hopping on their stencil and that sort of thing, so they get that pouncing technique down. You don't want them to rub it because it'll go underneath the stencil. It'll wiggle the stencil as well. So we're going to have 3 colors on here. I have a light green already, and now we have this darker green, which reminds me of an army green, which is very appropriate. I am going to put 3 colors on my camouflage here, so I just want to keep working my way around, getting a little bit of each of the colors. I usually have more of my lightest color than I do of the darkest color, which is going to be brown here in a second. So I'm running out of a little bit of my sponge here, so I'm just going to press a little bit harder. It really is this easy. This is not hard at all. I need a little bit more paint. Remember that little spot I had over here a second ago? We'll just hide it with the next color. There we go. I'm just going to keep working my way around here. Sorry, this probably isn't super exciting. It's, you know, basically watching paint dry, but just a quick and easy way. When I had my students at the high school work with our soldiers that we made, and I'll show you one here when I'm done, we had thought of an idea to do a fundraiser. So we made door hangers and sold them, and then the profits went to buying cups of coffee for soldiers around the world. It's a program we found online called